Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to try to tackle the enigma that is Elon Musk.
So fun.
We've got excerpts from his Wikipedia page, and we're going to unpack his journey
Okay.
from a South African childhood all the way to, his current position as a global influencer.
Yeah.
Prop.
It's a wild ride for sure.
It is, and it's easy to get lost in all the headlines, about the rockets and the tweets. But
Right.
we're going to dig a little deeper into the man himself to understand the key decisions and the innovations, and really what were the motivations that have shaped his trajectory.
Yeah, what's interesting about him is he's often portrayed as this almost mythical figure.
Right.
But when you really examine his life, you see this complex interplay of ambition and privilege and even hardship
Yeah.
that have all contributed to who he is.
So let's start at the beginning. Elon was born in Pretoria, South Africa,
Right.
and there's this whole story about his family being involved in emerald mining. Is there any truth to that?
So it's a bit more nuanced than that.
Oh.
Initially, both Elon and his father sort of claimed part ownership of an emerald mine,
Oh, wow.
which fueled this image of extravagant wealth. But more recently,
Okay.
his father clarified that it was actually a share of emeralds from 3 smaller mines.
Oh,
So still wealthy,
yeah.
for sure,
Right.
but the narrative has definitely shifted over time.
It's like we're already peeling back layers. Oh, wow.
With intense bullying,
Ah,
kids fighting over food.
really?
Makes you wonder how such a challenging environment might have shaped his resilience and his drive.
It's a stark contrast to the image of this sort of privileged upbringing.
For sure.
And his relationship with his father wasn't exactly easy either, right?
You're right. After his parents divorced,
Hmm.
Elon lived with his father,
Okay.
which he later regretted.
Ah.
He's been very open about the difficulties of that relationship, even describing verbal abuse.
Wow.
It's a reminder that even someone who seems to have it all can carry some deep scars.
Okay, so we've got this complex childhood with a mix of adventure and wealth and hardship.
Yeah.
How does that translate into his journey from student to entrepreneur? Because let's face it, Elon didn't just stumble into Silicon Valley.
No, he definitely had a plan.
Right.
At 18, he moved to Canada to avoid South African military service during apartheid.
Okay.
He actually inherited his strong opposition to apartheid from his father. And it was a strategic move using his mother's Canadian citizenship to give him a path to the U.S.
Okay, so Canada was a stepping stone.
Exactly.
He eventually ends up at the University of Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
But he didn't exactly follow the traditional academic path.
not exactly. He got degrees in economics and physics.
Wow.
Even got accepted to Stanford
Okay.
for a PhD in material science.
Can you imagine Elon Musk as a professor?
I know, right? But the dot-com boom was in full swing, and he decided to drop out and dive into the world of startups.
Oh, wow.
There's even a story that he tried to get a job at Netscape,
Huh.
but never heard back.
It's almost funny to think about that now.
I know, right?
Talk about a sliding doors moment. If he'd stayed in academia, the world would be a very different place.
Totally.
But instead, he teams up with his brother, and he starts Zip2, an online city guide.
Yep.
It's a classic startup hustle story, right?
Absolutely. Coding all night in a tiny office trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
They even landed contracts with big names like the New York Times.
Mm.
But there's also this layer of controversy.
Uh-huh.
Allegations that he and his brother were working illegally while building Zip2.
Oh, interesting.
It's a part of the story that often gets overlooked.
It definitely adds a layer of complexity to the self-made narrative.
Right.
But regardless, they eventually sell Zip2 for a whopping $307 million.
Yeah.
That's got to be a life-changing moment. What does Elon Musk do with that kind of money?
Well, this is where we start to see the seeds of the Elon Musk we know today.
Okay.
He co-founds X.com,
X.com.
one of the first federally insured online banks,
Okay.
which means it was backed by the government, just like the banks you and I use.
Got it.
It was a pretty radical concept at the time.
I bet.
Even his friends thought the name sounded a bit too risque.
Really?
They worried it might be mistaken for a porn site.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Right.
Even a visionary like Elon Musk can miss the mark sometimes on branding.
Totally.
But X.com wasn't just a funny name. It was the beginning of something much bigger, wasn't it?
You're absolutely right. X.com merged with a company called Confinity. And that's where things get really interesting.
Because that's where PayPal comes in.
Exactly.
And that whole PayPal mafia story, right? This
Yeah.
group of, tech guys who go on to create some of the biggest companies in the world.
It's incredible, right?
It is.
But the path to PayPal wasn't without its bumps.
Okay.
There were clashes over software. Elon was actually ousted as CEO at one point before
Wow.
making a comeback.
Really?
He was a roller coaster, but eventually they sell it to eBay for $1.5 billion.
Okay.
And Elon gets $176 million from that sale.
So at this point, he could retire comfortably, right?
He certainly could have,
Yeah.
but remember those stories about his adventurous grandfather?
Right.
That spirit is clearly alive in Elon.
Uh-huh.
Instead of retiring, he decides to chase a childhood dream: space exploration.
So this is where SpaceX is born. The company that's revolutionized space travel with reusable rockets and this ambitious plan to colonize Mars.
It's wild.
It is, but it all started with a pretty audacious, almost comical plan.
Okay.
Elon actually tried to buy refurbished intercontinental ballistic missiles.
ICBMs.
ICBMs, yes, from Russia.
Why?
Seriously, like the ones designed to carry nuclear warheads?
He did. He figured he could repurpose them to send payloads into space.
Wow.
But the Russian officials basically saw him as this naive kid
Oh,
with more money than sense.
right.
They wouldn't sell to him.
And that's when he decides, fine, I'll build my own rockets.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Right.
I'm guessing it wasn't all smooth sailing from there.
Not at all. SpaceX faced some major setbacks in the early days.
Okay.
3 failed launches in a row,
Oh, wow.
almost bankrupting the company.
Risk.
Most people would have given up.
Yeah.
But Elon's determination and maybe a bit of that inherited stubbornness
Yeah.
kept him going.
So it's a testament to his resilience. And eventually that perseverance paid off.
It did. They finally achieved orbit with the Falcon 1 rocket,
Wow.
then went on to develop the Dragon spacecraft, which docked with the International Space Station.
Wow.
Then came reusable rockets,
Right.
the Falcon Heavy launching a Tesla into space.
Oh, yeah.
And now the Starship program aiming to take humans to Mars.
It's been a remarkable journey.
It really has.
And it's not just about Mars, is it? There's also Starlink, his satellite internet project,
Oh, yeah.
making headlines, especially for its role in Ukraine.
You're right. Starlink has provided crucial internet access in Ukraine during the conflict.
Right.
But it's also sparked controversy over Elon's stance on funding it indefinitely. And his views on Russian media.
It's a complex situation.
It is, with both positive and negative implications.
So you mentioned SpaceX being this childhood dream. Was Tesla also part of that early vision?
It's interesting you ask that because while he's always been fascinated by technology,
Right.
Tesla wasn't born from a childhood obsession with cars. It's tied to a much grander vision combating climate change.
So how does Elon go from launching rockets to building electric cars? I mean, was he always a hardcore EV enthusiast?
Not initially. He was an early investor in Tesla Motors back in 2004, pouring a sizable chunk of his PayPal earnings into the fledgling company.
Wow.
He eventually became CEO in 2008,
Okay.
and that's when his hands-on approach really shaped Tesla into what it is today.
And from there, Tesla becomes this household name, right?
Sure.
Revolutionizing the car industry. But even with Tesla, there's controversy.
You're absolutely right. While Tesla's been incredibly successful in popularizing electric vehicles,
Yeah.
it's also been plagued by issues.
Like what?
There have been reports of challenging factory conditions,
Yeah.
clashes with workers, overpromising on self-driving capabilities,
Right.
which, by the way, are much harder to perfect than many people realize.
Yeah.
And then there are the investigations into Tesla's finances,
Okay.
including allegations that company funds were used for Elon's personal projects.
So it seems like this pattern is emerging: big ideas, bold moves,
Yeah.
a tendency to push boundaries,
Yeah.
which sometimes lands him in hot water.
Right.
But even with the controversies, you can't deny his impact. Tesla forced the entire automotive industry to adapt.
Absolutely. He essentially forced the hand of giant automakers,
Yeah.
proving that electric cars weren't just a niche market.
It's a legacy that goes beyond just financial success.
Right.
It's about changing the world.
Exactly.
It's like he's always challenging the status quo, whether it's with electric cars or, wait a minute, wasn't there also a company about digging tunnels?
Oh, you mean the Boring Company?
The Boring Company.
Another classic Elon move.
Okay.
It started with a tweet complaining about traffic.
Oh, really?
And before you knew it, he was digging tunnels under Los Angeles,
Huh.
promising to revolutionize transportation yet again.
So is this actual innovation or just hype?
Well, they did build a tunnel system under the Las Vegas Convention Center.
Okay.
So it wasn't just talk, but it definitely hasn't lived up to the initial vision of a vast underground network.
Right.
Whether it's a success or a publicity stunt is really up to you to decide.
It's fascinating how he jumps from one ambitious project to another. But speaking of ambitious, we can't forget about Neuralink. his brain-computer interface company.
Oh, yeah, that one's really out there.
This is where things get really futuristic.
The idea is to create a direct link between the human brain and computers.
Wow.
Think about the possibilities controlling devices with your thoughts.
Right.
Accessing information instantly, even potentially treating neurological disorders.
Yeah.
They even released a video of a monkey playing Pong with its mind.
Oh, I remember seeing that video.
It's absolutely mind-blowing stuff.
It is, but there's also been controversy surrounding Neuralink, right? Especially with animal testing.
But unfortunately, yes, while the potential benefits are exciting,
Right.
there have been serious allegations of animal cruelty during testing.
Yeah.
It sparked investigations and raised ethical concerns about how far we should push the boundaries of science, even with the best intentions.
It's that Elon Musk paradox again.
Right.
Groundbreaking technology
Yeah.
with the potential to change the world, but also a lot of questions about the methods and the potential downsides.
Exactly.
And speaking of controversy, we have to address the elephant in the room, Twitter.
Ah, yes, Twitter, or X as it's now known.
Right.
His acquisition of the platform and all the chaos that followed
Oh.
have been one of the most talked about events in recent memory. It's hard to even know where to begin.
Well, it all started with this growing interest in the platform, buying shares, all the drama surrounding his attempt to join the board.
Right.
Then, boom, he drops $44 billion and buys the whole company. I remember thinking, is he serious? What is he going to do with this?
It felt like anything could happen, and honestly, a lot did.
Right.
He immediately started making sweeping changes.
Yeah.
Firing executives, introducing new features, some of which were quickly reversed.
Right.
It's been constant headline news. And not always for the right reasons.
Yeah.
His actions have been criticized as impulsive and reckless, and the platform itself has been accused of becoming a haven for misinformation and hate speech.
And then there are his own tweets
Right.
and political pronouncements, which haven't exactly been low-key.
Yeah. No, they haven't.
He went from being relatively quiet on the political front to being very vocal, especially in his support for Donald Trump.
It's been quite a transformation.
It has.
We're seeing this collision of Elon Musk, the visionary entrepreneur, with Elon Musk, the increasingly polarizing political figure.
Yeah.
It's left a lot of people wondering what the future holds for both his companies and his legacy.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah?
From emerald mines to online banks, from rockets to brain implants, from electric cars to a chaotic social media takeover.
Yeah,
It's clear that Elon Musk is a man of many contradictions.
he is.
And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. His story is far from over.
Absolutely. And in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to take a closer look at some of the specific controversies surrounding Elon Musk, from his clashes with regulators
Right.
to his often outlandish statements that land him in hot water.
Yeah.
We'll also delve deeper into the ethical concerns surrounding his companies,
Oh.
particularly Neuralink and the allegations of animal cruelty during testing.
It's going to be fascinating and probably a bit unsettling to unpack all of that.
It will be.
But it's important to understand both the positive and negative aspects of his impact on the world. So stay tuned, and we'll see you back here for part 2 of our deep dive into the enigma that is Elon Musk.
I'll be here.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Elon Musk. Last time we covered a lot of ground, from his unconventional upbringing to his groundbreaking companies. But as we hinted at, there's a whole other layer to this story, and it's not always pretty.
Yeah, you're right. While Elon has achieved some incredible things, he's also been at the center of numerous controversies. He's constantly pushing boundaries, and that often leads to clashes with regulators, accusations of unethical behavior, and a whole lot of heated debate.
Right.
So buckle up, because we're about to explore the more turbulent aspects of his journey.
Okay, let's dive in. One of the recurring themes seems to be Elon's, shall we say, unique relationship with regulators. It's like he's constantly testing the limits of what he can get away with.
That's a good observation.
Yeah.
He definitely doesn't shy away from a fight, even if it's with government agencies. Remember that whole saga with the SEC back in 2018?
Oh, yeah.
That's a prime example of how his impulsiveness and some might say arrogance can backfire spectacularly.
Oh, yeah, the infamous funding secured tweet. Refresh my memory on that one.
Well, Elon tweeted that he had secured funding to take Tesla private,
Right.
which caused the stock price to skyrocket.
Of course.
The problem was that funding wasn't actually secured.
Oh.
The SEC saw it as a deliberate attempt to manipulate the market,
Right.
and they weren't too happy about it.
I bet.
It was a very expensive tweet.
It sounds like a classic Elon move Shoot first, ask questions later, except this time it had some serious consequences.
It did. The SEC filed a lawsuit against him for securities fraud, alleging that he misled investors. It was a messy legal battle that ended with Elon having to step down as Tesla's chairman,
Wow.
pay a $20 million fine, and agree to have his tweets about Tesla pre-approved by the company's lawyers.
Oh, wow.
Tesla itself also had to pay a $20 million fine.
You'd think that would have been a wake-up call.
You'd think.
But he's never been one to shy away from expressing his opinions, even if they get him into trouble. And that tendency has only intensified since he took over Twitter, or X, as he decided to rename it.
Speaking of X, that whole rebranding was met with a lot of skepticism.
I can imagine.
Some people saw it as a bold move to signal a new era for the platform. Others, and I think this is the majority, thought it was confusing, unnecessary, and just another example of Elon's impulsiveness.
Yeah, I have to admit, I still catch myself calling it Twitter. Old habits die hard, I guess.
Yeah.
But name change aside, the platform has become a lightning rod for controversy under his leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, he fired a ton of employees, made sweeping changes to the algorithms, and has been battling accusations of censorship and promoting misinformation.
There's definitely been a lot of turmoil,
Yeah.
both for users and advertisers.
Right.
Remember those mass suspensions of accounts that were critical of Elon? Not exactly a great look for someone who claims to be a free speech absolutist.
Right. There seems to be this disconnect between his stated principles and his actions. He says he's all about free speech, but then he silences voices that he disagrees with. It's another example of that Elon Musk paradox we talked about, inspiring and infuriating, often at the same time.
Absolutely. And this pattern extends beyond his online activities.
Okay.
Let's talk about the allegations of unsafe working conditions at Tesla factories.
All right.
This has been an ongoing issue for years. There have been reports of injuries, pressure to meet demanding production quotas, and a general disregard for worker safety.
Yeah, and it's not just about the conditions themselves. Elon has also been openly hostile to labor unions, even making illegal threats against employees who try to organize. It's created this very adversarial relationship with organized labor, which seems at odds with his image as this progressive innovator.
It definitely raises questions about his values and whether he's truly committed to ethical business practices.
Right.
And on that note, we can't avoid talking about Neuralink
Yeah.
and the disturbing allegations of animal cruelty during their experiments. Remember that amazing video of the monkey playing Pong with its mind?
Oh, yeah.
It turns out that kind of breakthrough might have come at a very high cost.
I remember that video. It was mind-blowing. But then reading reports about monkeys suffering and dying during those experiments, it really made me question the ethics of it all. It seems like the pursuit of progress, no matter the cost, is a recurring theme with Elon.
It's a classic case of the ends justify the means.
Yeah.
And it's a philosophy that many find deeply troubling. Even if the goal is to develop life-changing technology, it's crucial to do so in a way that respects the welfare of animals. It's not just about the potential benefits, it's about how we get there.
And there are actual consequences to these actions. Neuralink is currently under federal investigation for potential violations of the Animal Welfare Act.
Right.
And there have been whistleblowers from within the company alleging rushed timelines and unnecessary animal suffering. It's not a good look for a company that's supposed to be at the forefront of ethical scientific progress.
You're right. It speaks to a broader concern about Elon's approach to innovation. He's so focused on achieving these audacious goals that he sometimes seems to disregard the ethical implications, or at least downplay them.
It's almost like he's operating under a different set of rules, convinced that his vision justifies bending or breaking the norms that apply to everyone else.
There's definitely a sense that he feels exempt from conventional constraints,
Yeah.
whether it's in business politics or even personal relationships.
Right.
And that brings us to another area where Elon has generated a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
Yes, political views and pronouncements.
Yeah, he's definitely not shy about sharing his opinions, which have become increasingly right-leaning in recent years.
Yeah.
He's been a vocal supporter of Donald Trump, donated heavily to Republican campaigns, and even praised figures like Ron DeSantis. It's been a pretty dramatic shift from his earlier, more moderate stance.
It has. And it's led to accusations that he's become a mouthpiece for the far right, even promoting conspiracy theories and engaging in dangerous rhetoric.
Yeah.
Remember that whole controversy about him amplifying anti-Semitic content and making inflammatory statements about George Soros?
Yeah.
That resulted in advertiser boycotts and accusations of bigotry.
It was a pretty ugly chapter.
It was.
And it raised serious questions about his judgment and his understanding of the power and responsibility that comes with his massive platform.
Absolutely. Words have consequences, especially when they come from someone with as much influence as Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And while he did eventually apologize for some of his more inflammatory statements, the damage was done.
So it seems like he's constantly teetering on this edge between being a brilliant innovator and a reckless provocateur. It's hard to reconcile those two sides of his personality.
It is. And that's what makes him such a compelling and at times frustrating figure. He's a walking contradiction, a bundle of brilliance and brashness.
Right.
And it's impossible to predict what he'll do or say next.
So we've explored some of the darker aspects of his journey, the controversies that have tarnished his image and raised questions about his ethics.
We have.
But even with all that, there's no denying that he's had a profound impact on the world.
You're right. He's pushed the boundaries of technology, sparked important conversations about the future of energy and transportation, and even inspired a new generation of entrepreneurs and innovators.
So how do we reconcile these two sides of Elon Musk, the brilliant visionary and the reckless provocateur? Is it even possible to separate the man from his creations to appreciate the good while condemning the bad?
Those are questions that will likely be debated for years to come. But in the next and final part of our deep dive, we're going to try to tackle the most challenging question of all. What will Elon Musk's legacy ultimately be?
It's a question that only time will answer definitively, but I'm really looking forward to exploring those different perspectives and trying to make sense of this complex and often contradictory impact he's had on the world. Welcome back for the final part of our Elon Musk deep dive. We've explored his triumphs, his controversies, and everything in between. And as we wrap up, the big question looming over all of this is, what will be his lasting impact? Will he be remembered as a hero, a villain, or something far more complex?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that there's no easy answer. Elon Musk is a figure who defies simple categorization. He's a bundle of contradictions capable of both incredible innovation and reckless behavior.
It's almost like he's living proof that genius and chaos can coexist in the same person.
Right.
But let's try to untangle this a bit. When
Okay.
you think about his lasting legacy, what immediately comes to mind?
Well, there's no denying that he's had a transformative effect on multiple industries.
Right.
He single-handedly accelerated the transition to electric vehicles, making Tesla a global powerhouse and pushing the entire automotive industry towards a more sustainable future.
Wow.
That's a significant contribution to combating climate change, and its impact will be felt for generations to come.
It's hard to argue with that. He took an idea that was considered fringe and made it mainstream, forcing even the biggest car companies to change their game plan. But it wasn't just about cars, was it? His work with SpaceX has also been groundbreaking.
Absolutely. He reignited public interest in space exploration, proving that private companies can achieve what was once thought to be the exclusive domain of governments.
Right.
SpaceX has revolutionized space travel with its reusable rockets, dramatically lowering the cost of launching payloads into orbit. And let's not forget his ambitious plans to colonize Mars. Whether or not that actually happens in our lifetime, the fact that it's even a serious discussion point is a testament to his vision.
It's incredible to think that a single company led by this one man has been able to achieve so much in such a short period of time. And then there's Starlink, his satellite internet project, which has provided crucial communication lines in Ukraine during the conflict with Russia.
Right.
That's a very tangible example of how his technology can be used for good to support democracy and freedom.
You're right. Starlink has been a lifeline for Ukraine, allowing people to stay connected even in the midst of war.
Wow.
It's a reminder that for all his flaws, Elon Musk possesses the ability to leverage technology to make a positive impact on the world.
Okay, so we've got the positives: revolutionizing transportation, advancing space exploration, and even using his technology to aid in humanitarian efforts. But as we discussed in the previous parts of this deep dive, there's also a dark side to his story. The reckless tweets, the clashes with regulators, the allegations of worker exploitation and animal cruelty, the increasingly divisive political stances, these are all issues that cast a shadow over his accomplishments.
You're absolutely right. And those are the aspects of his legacy that are the hardest to reconcile. It's one thing to admire his ambition and innovation, but it's another thing entirely to condone behavior that many consider unethical, irresponsible, and even harmful.
It's like he's a character in a Greek tragedy, driven by this incredible force of will, but also plagued by hubris and a disregard for the rules that bind everyone else. So how do we weigh those two sides? How do we judge a man who has achieved so much good, but also caused so much harm?
That's a question that each of us has to wrestle with individually. There's no easy answer, No formula for separating the art from the artist, or in this case, the innovation from the innovator.
It's a dilemma that extends beyond Elon Musk. It's something we grapple with whenever we encounter brilliant minds who exhibit deeply flawed behavior. Do we cancel them, erase their contributions, or try to hold a nuanced view that acknowledges both the good and the bad?
It's a complex issue with no easy solutions. But I think the key is to avoid hero worship, to recognize that even the most brilliant individuals are fallible, and that their accomplishments don't give them a free pass to engage in harmful behavior.
That's a really important point. We tend to put people on pedestals, especially when they achieve extraordinary things. But it's crucial to remember that everyone, regardless of their accomplishments, should be held accountable for their actions.
And perhaps that's part of the reason why Elon Musk's story resonates so strongly with us.
Right.
He embodies this fundamental tension between our capacity for greatness and our potential for self-destruction. He's a mirror reflecting back to us both the best and worst aspects of humanity.
It's almost as if he's a cautionary tale, a reminder that unchecked ambition, even when paired with brilliant intellect, can lead to dangerous consequences.
Exactly. And as we move forward, it's crucial to learn from both his successes and his failures, to recognize that technological progress without ethical considerations can be just as destructive as it is innovative.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with a sense of both awe and unease.
Yeah.
Awe at the scale of his achievements and unease at the potential for those achievements to be overshadowed by his more reckless and harmful actions.
I share that feeling.
Hmm.
And I think it's important to hold on to that sense of complexity, to resist the temptation to simplify his story into a neat narrative of hero or villain.
Because ultimately, Elon Musk's legacy is still being written. The future will judge his impact, and it's up to us as informed citizens to ensure that judgment is based on a full and honest assessment of his actions, both positive and negative.
Well said. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of Elon Musk. It's been a wild ride full of unexpected twists and turns, and I hope it's left you with a deeper understanding of this complex and controversial figure.
And as always, we encourage you to continue exploring this topic, to seek out diverse perspectives, and to never stop questioning the narratives that are presented to you.
Because in a world saturated with information, it's more important than ever to be critical thinkers, to challenge assumptions, and to form your own informed opinions.
So until next time, keep those minds sharp and those curiosity levels high. Happy deep diving.